all, we're all in this boat together and we can all help each other out a lot. I personally never planned on using this kind of technology in my entire life. I was a school counselor and I couldn't figure out how to teach my kids tattling 15 years ago. So I wrote a story because I had a great grad teacher who told me, if you want to get into a kid's head, you read to them, they'll let you in. And if the books that you write have tools in them, the tools can absorb into their heads, and then they can use those tools for the rest of their lives to solve problems from the inside out. So I looked for a book on tattling, couldn't find one that said what I wanted to say, wrote a story about a kid who tattled a lot, and it got published. And so 15 years later, there are 111 Julia cookbooks, 9 languages, of about 2 million sold. So I never planned on being this path. I was a teacher and school counselor who writes books. And my books are all personal, social, emotional skills. So I was very resistant to reading online, to doing anything online, because I'd rather go to your school and talk with your kids than read to them on a screen. And now we're in a position where we have to do everything on a screen. So take a deep breath. Here's my spiel on that before we do a pause. None of us are supposed to know how to do this. We're teachers. We're face to face, in your face, teachers and counselors and administrators. We're not supposed to teach through a screen. We're in the people building business. And so if you feel uncomfortable, it's okay. I did my first Facebook Live sideways because I didn't realize that it was sideways. So they just turned their screen and watched Wilma Jean, the Worry Machine, be read sideways. And, because I'm learning right along with you. But I want to talk to you guys about who you are and having balance in your lives. You can't fix this, number one. And you can't fix kids, number two. Your goal as an educator, as a counselor, as an administrator, is to give our kids the tools that they need to solve their problems from the inside out. Reading to them storybooks is a great way. Hands-on lessons is a great way. But, your method has been altered, but your heart is in the same place. And we look at this like, oh my gosh, I'm spending 96 hours a week and I'm trying to do all this stuff and I want to make an impact. And what if I don't? I need you guys to think about that. Put your mask on yourself first and take a deep breath. It's very important that you maintain a sense of reality and balance during the situation. You cannot be as good as you are face to face, but you can't make a difference. But the only way you can make that difference is if you know how to take care of yourself first. I had a gal call me and she was just all up in arms because her kids are really high needs, and how does she make a difference with those kids, and how does she have them know that she's there for them? And I asked her this: what is missing in your life that you're trying to feel? Because sometimes I know I would try to fill the void by doing all these things for kids, and really the void was within me. You have to have a real solid base of who you are and what you need to set your profession on. Because if you're using your profession to fill the base, you're going to have an unstable aura, and you won't feel good about anything. And I like to, this is my favorite analogy. I want you guys to think about this for a minute. First, give yourselves a big hug. And then consider yourselves as setters in a volleyball game, okay? Sometimes when you're a setter, and they're the person who takes the second hit, the pass comes to you, you set the ball, it's the perfect set, you get a perfect kill, and you get a point. Most of the time, when a setter gets a ball, it's an out-of-system ball. You have to move your feet to the ball to try to make something out of something that isn't very great to get that possibility of getting a set, getting a point. And then there's that out of bounds, going out of bounds, out of system, crazy ball. It's heading out of bounds. Are you doing everything you can to touch that ball before it goes out of bounds and pop it back into play? Are you doing everything you can to better that ball? And then, not only that, but even if that ball goes out of bounds, you look in the mirror and you think, I did what I could to keep that ball in play. And then you have the strength and endurance and self-care enough to jump right back in your position and receive the next pass. You don't waller in the point past. You look toward the point ahead and you play one point at a time. You cannot look at our situation as a great, big, huge piece of pie that you have to eat in one sitting. If you're doing what you can do to better that ball, because the ball's the kid, the pass is how they come to us. We can't control how that ball comes to us, how it shows up, even when we're in school. But are you doing what you can to better that ball? But more importantly, are you doing what you can off the court to take care of you? Because we can't use our professions to fill what we need inside that keeps us stable. We got to figure out what that is first. Okay, so there's your first spiel. How'd that sound? I can't hear anything else.
Does anybody want to unmute themselves and respond or put something in the chat box? What do you think of Julia's analogy? Right?
Hey, Angie.
Yes.
If I know I just joined, but I just seriously probably heard the most important part in the last 2 minutes that I myself need to apply and think about as I'm talking about this with my staff family and stuff like that, as far as your profession can't be the only thing that fills your cup, basically. Like that can't be the thing that makes me whole on the inside. It's a part of who I am and what I do and what I love and my passion, but like it's not the thing that if that's the only thing I have right now, there's some things that I need to be working on for my self-care too. So I want to be able to try to communicate that in the best way I can to help others. And again, I have to also remember that not only my kids, but maybe my staff family too, everybody comes to me in a different way. And so the last 2 minutes was very impactful. Thank you, Julia.
Okay, am I on?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that, because our kids are pretty resilient and we don't have this anguish come June when they're on summer break. They're on their own, baby, and they seem to do just fine, and they come back to us in the fall, and you can't make your normal their normal. I mean, lots of times we really want to make, we see what they're missing and we want to make up for that. And kids are pretty strong. I mean, kids are really strong, and they seem to do just fine in the summer when we're doing things with our family and on our summer break as well. And this is a kind of a summer break extended with contacts. But you're never going to be this is the best lesson ever, is that it's just putting value on what we do, because machines can't teach kids. I mean, people can teach kids better than machines. And you all had teachers in your life that made you believe that you had what it takes to make a difference in the lives of other people. What were the qualities of that teacher that made you choose to go into education? And I think it's really important that, the two things, if you're struggling with relationships in your personal life, there's two things that every relationship must have. One is trust and one is communication. I mean, I can love my husband endlessly, but if I can't trust him or I can't talk to him, I cannot stay with him. And, if you have a relationship in your own personal life that's shaky right now, this is a brand new opportunity for you to work on those things. How can you increase trust and communication in those relationships? Our kids, they still trust us. We still trust them. We're just communicating differently. But there are a lot of silver linings in this situation that we're in. I have a list. I made a list. We have to pretty much accept what we're doing and understand that this is the cards that we have to play. Go for the small wins. Set goals. You cannot spend 96 hours a day in front of this computer thinking you're going to be teacher of the year. Set a certain amount of time where you have to get your stuff done, try to do the best you can do, and then unplug. Go and develop yourselves and work on your own family in your own homes, and take hold of the opportunity to clean out your closet that you never had time to do. Or I read this meme that said, I used to think that the reason I never got anything done was because I didn't have enough time, and now I know that's not the reason. I mean, what makes sense to me is I make a list every day of 3 things, not 8 things, just 3. And when I get those 3 things done, I say, go me, I did it, because I can go to bed thinking I'm a little bit farther ahead than I was before. So you need to work on, this is a great opportunity to work on the whole teacher in yourself, but mostly the whole person. I had a volleyball mom. My daughter played at the highest level of volleyball possible. And she said, volleyball is not who you are, it's what you do. And I want you to think about that. Teaching is not who you are. Teaching is what you do. And who you are can make you a better teacher. I got another one. Let's see. You got to believe in your own abilities. I am terrible at technology, but I'm trying, and I'm getting better every day. And now my Facebook readings on Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. And there's an activity afterwards. They'll go through May 15th called Bookends. You just have to like Julia Cook Online's Facebook page, and then you'll get the live feeds. And then they're going on YouTube as well. Now they're up and down. They're not sideways. So that's good. And, look for things that are inspiring to you every day. I mean, I want you to think about the things that bring you joy. Figure out a way to belly laugh every stinking day. I mean, I sent some I sent some food coloring and some paint brushes to my kids and said, paint on the sidewalk different colors. And so my daughter-in-law sent me this video today of my 1.5-year-old granddaughter painting her sister. That's not what I had in mind, but boy, did I laugh, What are the things that make you laugh? Okay. Send me some more.
We have a lot of people, Julia, commenting that this is what they needed to hear, and that this is a big kind of deep breath. We had a comment that the teachers that make the biggest difference in our lives showed love and compassion for students in the classroom and on that athletic field. So just some really good reminders for all of us.
There's some things we can do. I mean, you can't physically talk to them. We're all going to have those frequent flyer kids that we could email. You could send an email. You could actually send a physical letter, 50 cents a kid, but some of those kids just need a physical letter. There's absolutely nothing wrong with writing notes and driving around and putting a note at their door and ringing their doorbell and leaving. I mean, they're just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, or Mrs. Johnson loves you. Or I had one teacher, she just made a bunch of smileys. And then she, and the one thing that you can find is that when we feel like we're not good at anything and we feel depressed and kind of incomplete as educators, the one thing I know that makes me feel as a person, when I do something nice for someone else, it gives me a feeling of self-worth. I have a friend who's 76 years old, and she and her husband are healthy right now. We want to keep them that way, so I call her. I say, what do you need at the store? And I drop it off on her porch. I don't talk to her. I just give it to her, and the next day I come and there's a little check there, whatever. But I feel like every time I do something nice for somebody else, it comes back in droves. Go through Starbucks, pay for the guy behind you. Nobody has any money right now. Everybody's freaking out about money. And you will be amazed at when you do things, the random act of kindnesses that you do, they come back to us. And not only that, but we look in the mirror and we think, wow, I made a difference today. And that's what we love. That's what drives us to be good teachers, is knowing that we're making a difference. And this screen in the way, are we really making a difference? Yeah, you are. Because, you know, our kids know we care about them. That doesn't go away. And, you know, brainstorm some ways that you guys can get, you know, little care notes to your kids that aren't costly to you.
We have a great idea in the chat box that I think I can't see all of it, but I think it's from Kim. She dropped off Sierra Mist to students' homes and said, "You are missed."
Oh.
So some really great creative ideas that are out there.
And you know, and you think, well, gosh, I have all these kids, or I have, you know, if you're a counselor, you might have 500 kids, and you know, if you just kind of do salt and pepper here and there a little for everybody, you know, 5 a day, 3 a day, 2 a day, whatever, it all adds up. And you know, everybody drives by the school. You know, you could put a big old sign on the school from the teachers that say, "We love you and miss you," out of paper, you know, or I mean, just chalk. Chalk is a great way, you know. Go around and just say, "Mrs. Johnson loves you," and you write it on the chalk, and then it's on their sidewalk. Nobody touched anybody. Nobody gave anybody anything, and this tragedy that's going on in our world. We couldn't control it, but we can control what we choose to do with the situation that we're in. And first of all, I think it's making your value as an educator skyrocket. This is job security for you guys, because it's just all that more, you know, convincing that people need people. They don't need screens. And we have to depend on screens in this situation as a second best, but man, nothing is more important than that face-to-face conversation that we have with kids. It's just validating what we do.
So Julie, there's some other really fabulous ideas about that kind of maintaining that contact with kids and that relationship, ranging from sharing a slideshow for self-care with staff members, because I think some of us are in that capacity where we're also thinking about the people that we're working with. Sending sheets of colored hearts to the kids to color and display in their window.
How about sending hearts to your fellow teachers? You know, how about doing some kind of staff thing where you fork each other's yards or something at night, you know? I mean, just for fun, you know? I mean, you can't give if your own cup is empty. And you need to think about, you know, what can I do for someone on my staff just out of the clear blue to help them feel better about themselves too, because it starts with you. You know, if you're depending on your reaction with kids to fill your own cup, you got to figure out, what can I do in my four walls at home to be the best me I can be, and then I can share part of that best me instead of that haggard part of me. I mean, go on a walk every stinking day. You know, maybe your walk is a block, maybe it's 5 miles, but walk. There's nothing wrong with walking. You know, if you want to walk with your family member, you can do that. If not, you can call a friend and you can put your headphones on and plug your phone into the headphones and talk to your friend and virtually walk, and not even having a contact with them, but have an hour conversation like you would if you were walking together. Physical activity is absolutely huge for your brain right now. You've got to do some of that.
So what are some things, for those of you who are kind of reflecting on some of the things that Julie has shared with us so far, what are some things that you're really struggling with right now, from your own kind of personal health and well-being, and that permission that we're giving ourselves to be okay with it not being perfect? What are some things that you're struggling with, either that you would like some feedback on internally, or maybe even with that relationship piece or that normalcy piece with your students? What's on your mind? You can put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
I can only imagine how difficult you know, I'm not a teacher anymore and I'm not a counselor anymore, but I can only imagine how hard this is for you. And thank goodness we have like each other, you know?
So Julia, we have a comment that a comment from Jennifer who says the balancing act of being thrown into being a stay-at-home mom, teacher of my kids, working from home. So it feels like we've assumed all of these extra roles and responsibilities in our lives, and finding that just right balance. And anything you can share with that?
You need to make sure that I mean, planning is you know, teachers are pretty good at planning. So you need to you know, you have a schedule at school. When it's recess, you don't mess with recess. When it's lunch, you don't mess with lunch. So you have a schedule of when you need to be on. You have a schedule of what you need to do during that time. You know, you need to get creative with ways to schedule your time so that you can be the best at that time. And, you know, make sure that you schedule, the number one thing you schedule for you is time for yourself and time for your family. Those are 1 and 2. And then work and responsibilities for other things, those come after. Because you have to solidify that, you know, 1 and 2 are taken care of. And if you're at home and you're a mom and you're taking care of your 18-month-old and you're trying to teach kids, do it. Say, oh my gosh, my 18-month-old is driving me nuts today. We're going to do the best we can, but Herman here is going to be with us today. And your kids will love that. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. But a schedule, and you know, those kids, they're scheduled and then they come home on the weekends, and then summer they're not scheduled. Routine is our best friend right now. If our kids have routine and they know what they're going to do at a certain time, then they can predict what's happening. Anxiety lowers. You know, kids' anxiety goes through the roof when they can't control their environment and they can't control what they're going to do. And they can't have ways to physically release their energy. So if we can schedule our kids, you know, get them up on the right time, make them go to bed at the right time. You've got to be scheduled in order to fit everything in. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're not going to fit everything in, and then you just have to make a note, I didn't fit that in today, and give yourself an okay because I did the best I could.
Julia, we have a note from Kelly who said she's trying to reframe negative thoughts into thoughts of gratitude and finding a new routine that meets everybody's needs.
Don't you just hate those optimists who say, oh, it's half full? You know, I just want to smack those people sometimes. This sucks. This is terrible. Well, I like to say this whole situation vacuums, because it's better than saying sucks because it sounds nicer, right? This vacuums. This whole situation does. But, you know, there are 2 different ways of viewing every situation. And attitude is a little word with a huge meaning. And you're not going to be able to switch all your bad attitudes into good attitudes and gratitude. Not all of them, but can you do a few a day and a few more the next day and a few more in the next day? You know, because sometimes we're going to have days where we just want to bitch and moan. And that's okay too. We can't do that on the screen. Okay, so don't do that on the screen, but we're going to have days where we just have to get it all out. And then if we have more positives than we have negatives, then we are definitely a more proactive person, you know, than before. So it's all about, you can't just turn a light off and say, all my negatives are going to be positive. That's bull. Nobody can do that. But if you can logistically look at this and think, well, there are a bunch of things that are good about this. And as a family, you can sit down and just make a list of all the positive things that have happened because of this. And when you're having one of those moments where life is vacuuming, look at your positive list and try to pull from one of those to equalize that negative.
Mm-hmm. Very good advice. This isn't in the chat box, but I want to come back to something we were talking about briefly before everybody else hopped on. And that was this idea of equipping kids with toolkits. And so I think, especially in this situation, we need our own toolkit, and we need to think about what tools our kids have in their toolkits, or maybe if there's opportunities to give them some additional tools. So can you talk a little bit about that toolkit from our perspective as educators for self-care, and a little bit about that toolkit that
When
maybe
I write a
our
book,
students?
I never like start at the beginning and right through the end. I figure out, like Soda Pop Head, okay, it's on anger. What are you going to take away from it? What are 3 things when you get done reading that book that you take away? When you do your lessons online, don't look at it what you have to cover. Look at it like, when the kid's done with this lesson, these are the things I want him to learn. 2 or 3, 4 things that you want him to learn. Okay, well, how would I, and put yourself in their shoes, how would I want to learn that? Well, one of the best ways is to make those kids do something, not type something, not write something, but actually do something, and then they can write about what they do. Everybody seems like they're so down in the dumps. Go outside and find your favorite rock and color it and make a happy face on it. Put a happy face on it. That's your positive feeling rock. And I have mine right here so I can look at it. And then I want you guys to take pictures of it and email it to me. That's your assignment today, because we are going to think about the positives. And then you can extend that. Okay, so you're this positive rock. What are the positives? Tell a story through the eyes of this rock. What is this rock seeing that is good? What's your name of your hurt? You name your rock, and you can cover the same academic stuff that we have to cover, but you make it fun. If the kids are enjoying what they're doing, they're going to do it great. And you have certain guidelines and, things you have to cover because of well, what if they cover 3 of them and have a blast doing it versus 6 of them and they don't remember any of it? Kids learn by doing. So think about what you have around your house to make it fun for kids. And no one's observing you right now. This is what we love to do. Man, we used to have to teach the curriculum and teach to the test and they're giving you guys the stuff and they're saying, hey, do it any way you want to do it. This is an opportunity to be creative and have fun. This is why we went into education. Have fun every day with at least one of your lessons. Have fun. Because if you're having fun doing it, they're going to have fun doing it too. And you don't have to, it's the moments of fun. It's not, every minute of every lesson can't be fun. But can you have some kind of a fun, crazy activity? Wear a hat, wear glasses, sing a song, have your animals in front of you. My cat's bored today. Let's write a story about being bored. Who's bored, Look at my bored cat, and then hold up a board. Is that the same thing? No. How's it different? You can just pull stuff because they're giving you the gifts of what being a teacher really is, which is using your creative guts to get into kids' heads. So it's good. It's fun. I don't even know if I answered that question or not, but I sure
we have a lot of people in the chat concurring. So we have a comment here that we have someone who posted a read aloud of what do you do with a problem, and had their students respond to it by posting one positive thing that has come out of this situation. So already some reframing going on. That's awesome.
But these people that are optimists, you just want to kick them, how about being hopeful? There's the wishful thinkers, and they're like, oh, I wish I could win the lottery. Well, you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. Okay, so they're not doing anything. And then you have those optimistic people, oh, it's going to get better, everything's fine. But then when life throws them a curve, they get angry too. But the hopeful people, the people who have hope, they know that tomorrow's going to be better than today. And I have the power to make that happen. And every time I set a goal and I meet that goal, I know there's going to be a lot of obstacles in the way, but I know that if I can overcome those obstacles. and set those goals. And then the whole point is when I make a goal, I say, go me, go me. That's why video games are so cool, because kids just celebrate from the inside how awesome they are. And to win in real life is 5 times more difficult. But we set a goal and make it, and then we don't celebrate. We got to get the endorphins going, the go me's. So you know, be a hopeful thinker. Don't be an optimist, be a hopeful thinker, and know that tomorrow's going to be better than today, and you have the power to make that happen. And you might have obstacles, but to every obstacle, there's a way around it if you can figure it out. It's kind of like standardized testing. I mean, you know, they throw standardized testing at us, and you can deal with that any way you want. You say, we have to do this, and we have to work on this, and we have to get this, because if you don't do well, why don't you just say, oh my gosh, I can't wait till March 11th. We get to show the entire state of Iowa how awesome we are. I can't wait to see what you can do and you can do. We get to do this activity. Kids, when they get to do something, they use 7/8 of their brain. When they have to do something, they use 1/8. Just by saying you get to versus you have to. All right, you guys, today we get to do this versus today we have to do this. You don't like to be told what you have to do? Kids are the same way.
Julie, that goes along with, I have another question for you that has come up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if some of the rest of you are feeling this in your hearts, but that idea of kids right now who are hard to reach. And we know that there's that balance, and we have to set what's been passed to us. But we have some of those kids right now who are, because of the circumstances, very hard to reach, either from an academic or emotional or communication standpoint. What kinds of things do you think are going on inside students' heads right now, and how do we reach them? Are there any tools or strategies?
The hard to reach kids are hard to reach all the time. They're not just hard to reach now. You can't hold those kids to the same level of expectation as far as results based on their circumstances. So you measure progress in the little ways from where they are to where you take them. You know, are you doing everything? That kid might be a shanked pass going out of bounds, but are you doing everything you can to better that kid? So it's not measured in end results. It's measured in the process that goes on to help that kid. Every kid has a unique challenge, and some of the challenges, no one would be able to make a difference. I mean, realistically, but that doesn't keep us from trying. I mean, you can't get your kids to engage in this if they don't have a screen. So what do? Maybe you can write something down and pass it to them and give it to them in their house and just have a little note that says, just want you to know. I mean, our kids that don't have computers, our district's passing out, packets. But the teachers are putting these little note, like a package of Smarties in the packet. Because they're all smart. We want you to be smart just because, we know we love you. It's not about, it's not equal. Fair's not equal. Nothing's equal. It's effort. And it's measuring kids from where they were versus where they end up versus where you expect them to be. So with our kids that are hard to reach, we might have to put a little bit more effort in it. But the payoff, kid moves a foot and this kid moves an inch, and that inch is worth 100 times what that foot is for that kid. They're hard to reach anyway. So we just have to adapt to that and figure out a way to do our best to reach them this way.
Comments in the chat box, the power of yet. Sharing some excitement about, you've got a
Bubblegum Brains. This is Carol Dweck's work in a children's book called Bubblegum Brain. And there's some people out there that are brick brains. It is the way it is, and it's not going to change. And there's some people out there that are bubblegum brains, and the power of yet. I can't do it yet versus I can't do it. So mindset is something that will lead us through this mess. And, I mean, I can't do Zoom yet, but I can work on it. I'm working on it. So
We have another comment in the chat from Jan, who says, I've been trying to get my kids who are anxious to reframe it by saying I'm excited when they're feeling anxious, and following that up with the phrase, I've got this. So retraining.
We got this.
Oh, that's even better.
Okay. We got this. Brian Smith, he writes a lot of social emotional books too. I love him. I actually started his career, so that makes me really happy, because if any of you want to write and you want to get your stuff out there, I don't feel like we can have too many cool kid authors, so I always want to offer that help if I can. But I always finish my emails, together we are strong, and he always finishes emails, we got this. And you think about that, anxiety is a result of kids not knowing what's the predicting factor, what's going to happen next. So if we can do everything we can to set schedules and be predictable and celebrate successes along the way, so the kids predict when good things happen, this is how I feel, the anxiety level will go down. And kids that are high on anxiety, and then sometimes with a kid, if it's your own child with anxiety, you just have to say, okay, let's talk through this. I can only imagine. You don't belittle them. You don't say, oh, that's stupid, you shouldn't worry about that. You say, well, I can only imagine how scared you must be. Let's talk about that. What would be the worst case scenario for that? Well, what if you're not there to pick me up? Okay, well then what's your solution for that? And you talk through a solution. Then that kid makes a recipe card for that anxiety. And then that recipe card goes in a little recipe card file. And then they have all of their what to do ifs on paper, so they can leave here and be in there. And it's actually their, okay, if this happens, this is what I do. And if this happens, this is what I do. And it's and it's right in front of them. But you're not belittling the anxiety, you're addressing it and taking it head on and saying, well, what if I get COVID? Well, here's the thing with that, nobody knows the answer or whether you're going to get that or not, but we're all doing everything we can to make sure that that won't happen. And together we are strong. And those anxieties there's a lot of stuff in this Anthill disaster book. This is on shooters. Will there be a shooter in my room? When disasters and violence happen in our world, what do we say to kids and what do we say to parents? And so this book, even though it's about shooters per se, it's about any natural or man-caused disasters, which fits really nicely with what's going on in our world. And if you model what the parent says in the book, you're doing and saying the right things. And if you model what the teacher says in the book, you're doing and saying the right things when it comes to a disaster, which is basically what we're having right now, is a disaster. Just a long disaster, taking forever. So that's called the Anthill disaster.
Julia, we had a comment from Melody in the chat box, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this, because I'm hearing we named it last week. We said that we're grieving, and so Melanie said that she read about the stages of grief, and she has noticed how closely it aligns to the stages of emotions that we're going through right now as we're socially distancing.
Well, we have a book for that. It's called Grief is Like a Snowflake. And it talks about grief and that, it's okay to feel, everybody does it differently. Those stages come and go in they don't go in order. And, what we're feeling grief, I want you guys to think about this. You guys are anywhere from like 24 to 60 years old. So you have 23 to 59 years of experience to relate to grieving experiences. These kids that are 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, they only have 6, 7 and 8 and 9 years of experience for grief. So kids seem to be a lot more resilient than we do when it comes to grieving. But Grief is Like a Snowflake does talk about the stages of grief, and it talks about how it's okay to feel any way you want to feel. I learned this the hard way. My first year of school counseling, I had a little boy whose brother went down for a nap at 3 and never woke up. 2 weeks later, I had, and he was a second grader, and I had a third grader who watched her father die from an aneurysm. And so I was these two traumatized kids, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. And I brought them together, and the one responded beautifully to what what I did. And the other one, every time she saw me, she associated me with talking about her dad, and she fled and didn't want anything to do with me. And what I realized first off is that you can't fix it, and everybody does it their own way. But what you can do is give kids tools to migrate through that, and ourselves tools. And it's like we've lost our kids. Well, here's the beauty in that. We've lost our kids for a few months, not forever. Okay? I mean, hopefully we've lost loved ones, we may have lost loved ones because of this disease, and that is forever. And, that's a totally different ball game. But how we grieve is a very individual thing. And it's like when you put a coin in one of those great big circle things, and it goes around and around and around, and then it goes down the hole. So when you lose somebody you love, the first year is awful. The first Christmas, the first birthday, the first Hanukkah, the first anniversary. And it just seems like it's just awful. The second year seems to go around a little faster. And the third year, you can breathe. And the fourth year, you might be able to smile. And as it progresses, you still have those feelings, but you're able to live through them. You're able to, you're able to experience joy again, and it's not happiness. People try to strive for happiness, and then they let themselves down. How about striving for joy? Little things that are joyful, all the way. I have a talk coming out on this for staff on, finding joy in what you do versus happiness. If you look up joy versus happiness, Matthew McConaughey, he's hot, but he has this whole thing that talks about how joy is different than happiness, and we should be going for joy, little daily bursts of joy. And I totally, if when you're around people, we had a really sad counselor, lost her husband instantly and had 2 little boys. And how do you raise 2 little boys without a daddy? And I have a very good friend who was killed in a car wreck and left his wife with 2 little boys. And now those kids are in high school and middle school. So reading her post, I hooked them up on Facebook together and asked my friend if she wouldn't mind being in contact with this young mom who has walked the path she's going to walk only like 5 years before. And heard last week that those 2 moms have just been able to, it's helped the mom who has been through it before know that what she went through is helping someone else. Because when you help someone else, you feel better about yourself. And this poor mom who's never been through this knows that, that there is people who have been through her path too. So when you feel like that, when you feel like you're grieving, some of the best things you can do is grieve with others that have walked this path too or are walking it, because together, man, we are strong.
That's really, really sound advice. And I think we're all in it together. So to lean hard on each other right now is completely okay.
With grief, it's like a snowflake. After Sandy Hook, I wrote this book for the Sandy Hook parents. And I happened to be in, Michelle Gay lost her daughter in the Sandy Hook tragedy. And I was going to her house. She lived in Boston, and I was meeting with her to talk about the back cover and the forward of the book, which she did a beautiful job writing. And a portion of the book goes to Safe and Sound Schools, which is the Sandy Hook Initiative, folks that are trying to make our schools safer. And we were in her kitchen, and when the kids died, I got a letter or an email from one of the counselors in Connecticut that says, send grief books, we need them. Here's the names. And so I sat down and wrote to the family of Alyssa Parker, to the family of Josephine Gay. And I wrote out all those little kids, all 17 of them, and the family members of the teachers that lost in Sandy Hook as well. And if you remember on TV, after that tragedy, there were just truckloads and truckloads of stuff that went to those families. So I was in her kitchen and I said, did you ever get the Grief is Like a Snowflake book that I wrote for your family? And Michelle said, I don't think I got that. She says, but there is so much stuff in the garage. I just can't go through it. It's just so heartbreaking. And I haven't been able to go through it. And her daughter goes, the tree one? And I said, yeah. And she goes, Mommy, that one's in my bedroom. And her 9-year-old little girl said, I'll go get it. And she ran and got that book and opened it up to the page where there's different emotions. And she goes, where'd you get that? She goes, I dug it out of a box in the garage. I read it every night before I go to bed. Mom, Julia, you nailed it. This page, you nailed it for me because this is how I feel. And so I cried and Michelle cried and the little girl thought we were both nuts because we were both crying. But you just never know those lessons that you're going to give your kids, where they're going to end up and what seeds you're planting. You're just planting virtual seeds now instead of actual packaged seeds, but you're still planting seeds, And so if you do the best you can do to be the best person you are to help those kids one little piece at a time, that adds up.
That does add up. And we have a comment from Debbie who made the reflection that she loved from a meeting either this week or last week that she was involved in. There was a conversation that right now the kids are unfortunately losing about 25% of their school year, but when you think about over their entire life, it's just about 2%. And so, keeping that, I think, in perspective is something that's really healthy to do too.
Well, and think about this. They're losing 2% of their school year, but what are they gaining? I mean, look at all the life lessons that they're gaining right now. I mean, look at all the life lessons we're gaining. Maybe teachers really can use this time as a time of reflection and internal reason of why I'm doing this and the purpose that I have here. And, every stinking teacher on this Zoom talk are going to go back in the classroom and be a better teacher because of what they've lived through. Every teacher in our country, when they walk back in the classroom, they're going to have a total different appreciation for having 2 feet in front of those kids' faces. Mm-hmm. And the entire world is going to have a much higher level of understanding of how important you are and what you actually do for people. You're in the people building business. The only thing that's changed is your method. And that's going back to normal. But man, there's a lot of stuff that we can gather along the way, not just to validate us, to become better people, but, to validate our profession. We're priceless, baby.
So Julia, we have a few minutes left. Are there any other things that people have questions or reflections on? I have a comment from Marcia that says, there are so many silver linings sewn into this situation and we need to start embracing the good. I love the comment that I'm seeing, happiness is a fleeting feeling, but joy is a choice to find the good during bad situations.
You guys, Google the difference between happiness and joy and then strive for joy. Because the happiness, if you say, I just want to be happy, you're just going to let yourself down. And this is when in normal situation, but it really applies here. Joy's where it's at.
So Julia, in our last few minutes, do you have any closing thoughts for us? Or
well, first of all, if there are a bunch of different titles, you can go on my website, juliacookonline.com, and if you hit buy books, there's a titles and topics bar, and you can see all the different topics. And if there's an asterisk by that title, then those titles have activity books with them. If you want to order anything on my website, I might not be able to compete with Amazon's pricing. I will give you 10% off of your order, and I will personally sign every book and mail them to you. If you want to read these books to your kids, as long as it's on a closed loop, That's legal. You can read the book to your kids. And as long as it's not accessible to everyone, then you can do that. And you can do the activities in the activity book. That's what they're for. If you want to tune into Bookends, Mondays, Fridays, 9 a.m., I'll be reading Batitude tomorrow, Soda Pophead Monday, and we're doing a whole different schedule for the others. And if you want to look back on the other ones that I've done, just go to my Julia Cook online author page and like me, because I'm insecure. So you got to like me. And then when you like me, then you'll get my feed for live Facebook, and you can look back and view all of and each book comes with a lesson. So if you need a quick lesson, you can just tune them into that and have them do it. And I mean, you could even record a recording if you wanted to. I don't care. It's for you to use. And so if I can help you make your life easier, please use that. And if you want to contact me on Facebook with personal questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. Sometimes it might take me a day or two, but I would be very honored to hear from you and would do everything I can to help. And maybe that set up a phone call or whatever I can do to help you. I don't have a job right now. I'm unemployed. You guys have jobs, but I don't have one. So,
Julie, we did get a request to repeat the websites.
it's juliacookonline.com. You can just Google Julia Cook and it will come up.
Oh. All right. Any other questions for Miss Julia? I'm seeing a lot in the chat, Julia, people thanking so much. They appreciate all of your words of wisdom, and that this is really a message that everyone kind of needed to hear at a moment for us to continue to just take one of those big, deep breaths in this whole experience and be reflective of how we're doing and how we're responding to the situation in a healthy and a positive way.
So your responsibility is what you give to kids. That's your responsibility. You cannot control what they do with that information, okay? So you have to work on the best delivery you can and be the best person you can be for you, and then there's more of you to go around. What have you done today to fill your own bucket? I mean, this is a nice opportunity to become whole people, to become a better person. And to actually take a breather and enjoy a little bit of life. And you might not be able to get all your list done. Well, then your list is too long. Make it 2 or 3 instead of 8 or 9 things. And then say, go me, I did it.
I need to do more of that, celebrating my life.
That's right. We got to celebrate, because if we don't, then there's no dopamine release. When you say, go me, I did it, then that's the dopamine release that we need that makes us feel pretty good. And don't put a price. If you put a low price on yourself, don't ever expect the rest of the world to raise it, because it's not going to happen.
So I think we should all be doing the Go Me dance right now. Releasing all of those
and get
brain
out
chemicals.
I mean, if you're not a jogger or a kickboxer or whatever, just walk. Just get out and walk. And tomorrow walk a little farther and a little farther and a little farther. Just walk. I mean, it's nice. The air's clean. You know. Put your little mask on if you feel better about it. But you want to go by anybody anyway. Just walk. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and everything else just kind of. When I don't walk, I'm cranky. But when I walk, I'm nice. That's the one thing I do for me: Starbucks and walk. And I'm cranky if I don't get both. And Starbucks is closed, so I have to walk.
Julia, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. We so appreciate it and so value the time that we had together with one another.
If any of you want a book, I do a lot of staff development, K through 12. I do a lot of kid visits, elementary through high school, and then I do a lot of parent talk. So if you're interested in booking a visit, you just go to my website, juliacookonline.com, and it says book Julia, and I'll send you the information. When this is all over, then I'll come do face-to-face with your kids. That's fun, and your parents and your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in this afternoon. Just as a quick plug, we have a whole other week next week planned for professional learning. So if you're interested in learning more about Seesaw, Google Apps, we're going to talk a little bit about trauma next week and family resources. So watch for that email either a little later on today or tomorrow morning. And then the following week, we have more fun stuff planned. So Julia talked about the fact that we're stronger in this together. And so we want to continue to provide those opportunities to work with one another and to share and to lean hard on one another during these times. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful.
Thank you for listening and you were great. Thanks a lot, you guys. Love you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That was amazing. So fun.
Bye.
Yeah, I really
That was a
enjoyed
lot of fun.
it. That was great.
Thank you, Julia.
Hey.
So remind me how you two know each other.
Well, I did a visit at Ruth Ann's school
Okay.
when she was the big cheese at the school.
Aha.
Krista, I did learn from Julia a little before we started that Ruth Ann was a little bit of a crack in the whip, take no flack kind of administrator.
I can believe that. Get the job done.
Yeah, you didn't mess with her. That
Yeah.
was what I liked.
Oh, that's awesome.
Are you a softie now or something, Ruth Ann?
Oh, no. They just don't know me, that side of me.
Uh,
I'm soft with them, you know, but I'm still me.
No, Ruth Ann's wonderful, and I'm very grateful for the fact that you were able to put all of us together, because what a wonderful, just an awesome way to close out the week. I think we need something at the end of every week just to kind of keep our cups filled.
mhm.
So, you know, I think this was, judging by the comments that I saw coming through the chat box with everyone saying I needed this moment to take a breath. And to just kind of reflect. I think that this was much appreciated.
Oh, I'm so glad.
There were a lot of starstruck teachers out there too that read your books all the time that were saying they have your whole collection. So they were very excited to see and meet you.
Well, the one thing I always loved about Julia, she's a straight shooter. And so I know that she would say it like it is, and she did. And I appreciate that.